Everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a while. This is my ninth episode of my podcast, The Weird Sports Show, hosted by me, Nick Pfouts. And in today's episode, we're going to the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup preview. I'm going to be doing two episodes this week. In today's episode, I'm going to make my predictions and just kind of preview the matchups. And the first one I'm going to talk about is going to be the Stanley Cup Finals because it's happening tonight. So let's dive in. So, game one is between Vegas Golden Knights and Carolina Hurricanes in Raleigh. And for those who don't know, the Carolina, obviously they represent North Carolina and South Carolina, but they're in Raleigh, not Charlotte, like the other pro teams in North Carolina. And Vegas is coming off a sweep where they beat my Colorado Avalanche, unfortunately. Swept them pretty good. And they were really impressive defensively and just a good team overall. They were close games, but Avalanche just couldn't get over the hump, especially with the injuries and stuff. But anyway, Vegas just looked like a different team than they did in the regular season. They only won 39 games in the regular season, which is not very many, but they won their division and they made a coaching change and it worked. They've unlocked something in their leading point scorer in the playoffs in the NHL and just theirs, and Mitch Marner coming over from Toronto last year. And Mitch Marner's just been unbelievable. He's been making plays all over the place and with assists and goals, second of all the points. And Jack Eichel has a chance to do something really special in winning a gold medal and a Stanley Cup in the same year. And the others as well on their team are amazing, like Mark Stone and a bunch of other guys. And they're great goaltending from Carter Hart. He's really made the difference, especially in the Avs series. He made a really big difference, and he blocked everything, and it was really hard to score against him. And frankly, one of the reasons Vegas is here is because of him for sure. And he was injured for most of the season, but once he and their coaching situation got figured out, man, they've been insane. They've been on a tear. Carolina, they're coming off of beating the Montreal Canadiens in 5 games. They've only lost one game in these playoffs, believe it or not, which hasn't been done since the 1980s Oilers. It's insane. They swept their first series against the Senators, Ottawa. They swept Philadelphia Flyers, and they lost one game against the Canadiens. So they are 12-1, which is absurd. And they look like they were on a collision course for the finals with the Avalanche or whoever in the West, and it turned out to be Vegas. And they look poised to hoist the cup as well. They're led mostly by their tenacious defense and pressure, especially in the neutral zone, and their defense is insane. Jacob Slavin, Keandre Miller, they've been studs, and they've been insane. And they have great other players like Seth Jarvis, Sebastian Aho, Taylor Hall. They're just an all-around really solid team, and not a lot of people know about them. Honestly, I didn't know about them that much, but they've been very successful in the past. They got into the conference final last couple years, but this year they've been ready to go, and they got there, and they got to the finals. And both teams have great goaltending, Hart and Freddie Anderson for Carolina, and the coaches as well. John Tortorella got hired on March 29th with 9 games left, like insane. After they fired their Stanley Cup winning coach Bruce Cassidy, which, it worked. That's a little bit of a head scratcher. At first you're firing and hiring that late into the season. Like, what's the plan? Like, but sometimes, especially in hockey, it seems like those late coaching changes, those firings, they wake something up in the team, and everyone just kind of figures it out. And they've been impressive. They've been a completely different team. They've only lost 4 or 5 games since Tortorella's taken over and won like 18, I believe. Yeah, 18. And the other coach for Carolina, Rod Brind'Amour, amazing player, as a Carolina Hurricane, won a cup with them, and now as the head coach since 2018, he's taken them to a step further every year since he's been there, and they've been amazing. And looks like it's gonna be a good series, and there's a lot of matchups, not flashy at first, but when you look into them, they're very good matchups, and should be a fun series. For my prediction, I think it's going to be a tough physical series. I think it goes 7 games. I think it comes down to Freddie Anderson. Can he stop the puck? Can he stop the second and third chances from Vegas? That's what they did to Colorado, and they just had relentless pressure, and they just really got into them, and they really they just poured it on. They were insane, that Colorado Avalanche series, and can Carolina stop that? Can they put all the pressure? Will the rest help them? And I think the reason I'm going with Carolina is Freddie Anderson has been amazing in these playoffs. He has not faced much, but I think he's been amazing, and I think Carolina has enough to win, and their rest in between series has actually helped them and gotten healthy, and I think they're healthier than Vegas, even though Vegas got through their last series pretty quickly. I think Carolina has, I think it's their year. And I refuse to pick Vegas after they beat the Avalanche, so I'm obviously going to be biased here, unfortunately, but I believe Carolina's going to win in 7, so book it. If it doesn't happen, freezing cold take. On to the NBA, where the Knicks and Spurs are playing in the NBA Finals for a throwback to 1999 when they played, the year before I was born, of course, but that was the last time Knicks were in the Finals, and that was kind of the start of the San Antonio Spurs dynasty, really. They got their first championship back in 1999, and 26 years later, here we are, back again. The Spurs, San Antonio, they beat the defending champs, Oklahoma City Thunder, in 7 games, and led by Wembanyama, the alien, and their young dogs like Dylan Harper and Stephon Castle and Devin Vassell. Their average age is 25, and they have just been amazing these playoffs, and took down the champs and talked their talk and talked their shit and did their thing, and they are in the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014. And their first playoff run for most of this team, besides De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, and Luke Cornett, I mean, most of their best players, they haven't played in the playoffs before, and they're already in the Finals, which is unreal. Wembanyama is only 22, and they only won 33 games last year, and they're in the Finals. First full year for head coach Mitch Johnson as well, so they are just on a roll. And they've been an amazing team all year, won 60 games, so they've definitely been worthy. Everyone's just been wondering, like, will their experience catch up to them? Lack of, I guess. And hasn't yet. Yet to be seen. The alien, Victor Wembanyama, has been on a mission to prove to the rest of the NBA that he's the best player in the world, and maybe for the next 10 years. He's unbelievable player. Defensively, no one has the impact like he does. The Thunder and Timberwolves and the Trailblazers, every team in the playoffs have had, when you're watching a game, they have to change their shot because he's in the paint. The Thunder had so many layups that they normally get, and they did not have them against the Spurs because of his defensive impact, and they were worried about the block shot. So he's by far the best defensive player in the game, and it was shown by the awards. He won Defensive Player of the Year unanimously for the first time ever, and has continued to develop offensively into an amazing player at the 7'4", 7'5" frame. He's a matchup nightmare offensively, and defensively he's the best player in the league as a defender. And he's motivated, and the mindset of him, hanging out with Monks in the offseason, and Kevin Garnett and Hakeem Olajuwon, I mean, people were surprised how great he's been a little bit. Didn't think it would be yet, but he's putting in the work. Clearly, the alien is, especially if he wins this title, he will probably be the best player in the world. And that's a Nuggets fan, which is crazy to say. As a Nuggets fan, Jokic and him, seem like are neck and neck to me. They're a very young team, But they got veterans like De'Aaron Fox and Luke Cornett guiding them and providing huge plays. Luke Cornett with a huge block in Game 7 on Isaiah Hartenstein, and De'Aaron Fox has been steady and clutch. He was injured, and they did win one game without him, but they were a little shaky, and ever since he's been back, he's brought defense and scoring and playmaking, and they call him Unk, and he's not even 30 years old. That's how young this team is. So that just proves to you how this team has a good vibe, and they're going in the right direction. The New York Knicks got in the finals for the first time since 1999, have played the best basketball of anyone, winning 11 games in a row. And all their crazy-ass fans and them got to celebrate after the sweep of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they've been on a tear, and they just have beaten the crap out of everyone. Really beaten the crap out of everyone. And Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns led the way. They've shifted the offense to run through Cat at more of a playmaking role, especially through the first three quarters. He's making a lot of plays, being that stretch five, and being the point center like Nikola Jokic, like other guys in the league have been. And it's changed their offense and changed their team, frankly. And Brunson's not as fatigued going down the stretch, and he's able to close out the fourth quarters. And you saw what they did against the Cavaliers when he went on a 12-0 run by himself, basically, in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And they came back and won and devastated Cleveland. And Cleveland never recovered and got boat raced the whole rest of the series. And it's been insane. And Cleveland couldn't recover anyway. But enough about Cleveland. But the Knicks have been unreal. Brunson has averaged 27 a game these playoffs, has completely dominated the fourth quarter, and he went on that run, and he's looked like the best point guard in the league, probably besides SGA, but I might put him above him. He's amazing, and small guard, but big heart, and he is the toughest. I think he's one of the toughest players in the NBA, and he's a matchup nightmare. But the Spurs have a lot of guys that can guard him, but we'll see how that matchup goes on. And the New York Knicks, they look like, especially with that fan base, it would mean so much to them and all their celebrity fans as well. And MSG, Madison Square Garden, Game 3 will be as crazy as an environment as the NBA's probably seen in years, and I can't wait to see how it is, especially if it's 1-1, which I think it might be, but especially if it's 1-1, that place will be as loud as any arena in the world, and I'm very excited to see what happens. The X Factors in this series to me are OG Anunoby and Stephon Castle, and why I think they are. OG Anunoby, if he knocks down shots, as well as Josh Hart with the knocking down shots, but OG Anunoby's defensive impact on Wemby and De'Aaron Fox or Castle, his versatility defensively, if he plays well in this series, they definitely can win. He has to, though, because I think Brunson and Cat will be limited at times. And so it's about the others. And I think OG, if he limits Castle and Wemby, I think that the Knicks can win the series. Now, for Castle, he's got to stay out of foul trouble. If he stays out of foul trouble and can defend Brunson well, which I think those go hand in hand if he defends Brunson well, if they're allowed to play physical and Brunson is limited, I think the Spurs win the series. And I think it won't be that close if he does that. And, if Champagnie knocks down threes, if the other guys... Because Wemby's going to play well. He's going to play well. And I know Jalen Brunson will probably play well. It's about everyone else. And I think Castle, even though he's 21, he's as good of a player, as good as a second option as anyone in the league. And we just didn't even know the potential yet because he's so young. So that's why I think he's an X factor. And I think the Spurs win in 6. That's my prediction. I think they win in 6 because I think their team is too deep, physical for the Knicks, and they have proven experience doesn't matter. It's about the execution, what they do better than anyone. I think Mitch Johnson, coming from that Spurs tree, the Greg Popovich, I think they're too much. And I think Victor Wembanyama is made for the moment, especially going to Madison Square Garden. He's made for the moment. He wants the moment, too. And I think they win on Game 6 on the Knicks' home floor, as painful as it is for Knicks fans to see that. I think the Spurs won 4-2 in Game 6, and they hoist Larry O'Brien and usher a new era of Spurs basketball. And watch out, NBA. If they get this one, it could be a couple. Because, there hasn't been a repeat champion in a while, but it looks like these guys, if they win this year, they could be the ones that could do it. But you never know. Injuries and all that can change anything. But, yeah. Spurs win 6, and Hurricanes win 7. Those are my predictions. And thank you for listening to this episode. I'll be doing another episode this week on the Savannah Bananas. Oh, God. The Savannah Bananas, excuse me. Bananas. Savannah Bananas as a weird sports story. And, their phenomenon and how they got started. And it's a very interesting story. So I'm very excited. And thanks for listening. And like and subscribe this channel. It's growing, weirdos. And I hope you enjoy the podcast. Thank you. Bye.